يا أيها الناس قد جاءتكم موعظة من ربكم وشفاء لما في الصدور وهدى ورحمة للمؤمنين قل بفضل الله وبرحمته فبذلك فليفرحوا هو خير مما يجمعون.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. Alhamdulillah, we've gone through most of the makharij. We've got one more for the tongue. So we had a number from the tongue. In total we had 10. And the last makhraj from the tongue is, as Ibn Al-Jazariyyah rahmatullahi alayhi says, وَالظَّاءُ وَالذَّالُ وَثَالِ الْعُلْيَا مِنْ طَرَفَيْهِمَا. The letters Ḍhā, Dhāl and Thāʼ are from the upper incisors, from the meeting of each tip. So وَالظَّاءُ وَالذَّالُ وَثَاء لِلْعُلْيَا are from the upper. So it says لِلْعُلْيَا in brief, in a summarized way, but he refers to لِلثَّنَايَا الْعُلْيَا are for the, or from the upper incisors. As one of the explainers mentions, Sayfuddin al-Fadali rahmatullahi alayhi says من طرفيهما يرجع إلى طرف اللسان وأطراف الثنيتين العليتين. He says both of their tips refers to the tip of the tongue and the tip of the top incisors. من طرفيهما, from the meeting of each tip, the tip of the tongue and the edge of the upper incisors. The edge meaning the tip. طيب. The 14th articulation point. طرف اللسان وأطراف الثنايا العليا. The periphery or tip of the tongue with the edges of the upper incisors. Here we have an image of the ظاء. You can see that just like the other heavy letters, the back of the tongue is raised, is curled upwards, and the front of the tongue, or the tip of the tongue, is meeting with the upper incisors. Same thing with the Thāʼ and the Ḍhāl, but the back of the tongue is relaxed. It is not raised at the back. And in terms of where it would be touching on the tongue, it would be close to the front of the tongue. Now obviously, some people, they will put their tongue behind their teeth. That is incorrect. Some people, they will put their tongue too much forward, too much out of their mouth. And that is also wrong. That is also something which has been cautioned against by the ulama of tajweed. So for example, Al-Imam Ibn al-Banna al-Hanbali, one of the early scholars, he passed away in 471, and this is what, 1,000 years ago. He mentions that it is not permitted, or it's not correct for a person to excessively bring their tongue out. So like for example, a person goes, they bring their tongue out, right out, right? It can be a little bit out, right? Because it's not going to be necessarily like edge to edge, right? But it's not going to be too far out. That would be something to be cautioned against. طيب. A few points about Ḍhāء, Ḍhāl and Thāʼ. When the Ḍhā is found before or after a Ḍād, it is essential to make each clear. This will further be elaborated in the chapter on Ḍād and Ḍhā. So Ḍād and Ḍhā, Bab al-Ḍādi wa Ḍhā, something which is coming. Examples given by scholars like Makki ibn Abi Talib, rahmatullahi alayhi, is أنقض ظهرك. أنقض ظهرك. Alright? يعض الظالم. بعض الظالمين. And without elaborating too much on this, because this is something which will be elaborated on in Bab al-Ḍādi wa Ḍhā. طيب. If the Ḍhā comes in a word which would give a different meaning with the letter Ḍhāl, it is necessary to make it clear. So if Ḍhā has come in a word, and if we switched it with Ḍhāl, it would change the meaning to something else, it's necessary to make it clear. In any case, it's necessary to make it clear, but even more so when the meaning changes when you change it to a Ḍhāl. And a very oft quoted example is from Surah Al-Isra. وَمَا كَانَ عَطَاءُ رَبِّكَ مَحْظُورًا بِالظَّاءِ. And إِنَّ عَذَابَ رَبِّكَ كَانَ مَحْذُورًا بِالذَّالِ. So عطاء, meaning the gifts or the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are not mahzur. Mahzur means something which is held back, or something which is stopped, or something which is has a limit to it. Alright? يعني ممنوعا. In the other ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ عَذَابَ رَبِّكَ كَانَ مَحْذُورًا. Mahzur comes from حذر. Right? كن حذرا. Be careful, right? So the adhab, or the punishment of your Lord, always was something to be cautioned, or something to be taken care of, or something to be wary of. طيب. If there's a Ḍhā which is sakin, and it is followed by a Thāʼ, which is a pronoun, ta or tu, it is necessary to make the Ḍhā clear and not do idgham into the Thāʼ, as is done in some words with the Ta and Ta. So when the Ta is sakin, and then there's a Ta following that, a Ta al-khitab, what they call Ta al-khitab, then that is something which you do idgham of. Whereas with the Ḍhā, you have to be careful not to do idgham. So examples of where the Ta does idgham, is words like ahattu, right? That is idgham, but it's idgham naqis. It is deficient or incomplete idgham. Whereas in words like awa'azta, you do not do idgham of the Ḍhā into the Ta'. You pronounce the Ḍhā completely and you pronounce the Ta' completely. If it's not second, then there's no fear of idgham aslan. صح? Because the fear of idgham is when a letter is second followed by a letter to which is mutaharrik. And if the letters are very close, then some qurra they do idgham, and sometimes some qurra don't do idgham. And when idgham is not done, you have to be careful not to do idgham. You have to be careful to pronounce each one completely. طيب, a few more points inshallah. If a heavy letter occurs after the letter Ḍhāl, it is necessary to make it light so that it does not resemble a Ḍhā. So for example, words like قَالَ مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ, the Allah, rather than مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ, the, right? فَذَرْنِي, right? Not فَذَرْ, the. يَذْرَؤُكُمْ, rather than يَذْرَؤُكُمْ. Also, the articulation of Thāʼ should be emphasized, especially when followed by strong letters like Ḥā, as the letter Thāʼ is a weak letter. So for example, حَتَّى يُثْخِنَ فِي الْأَرْضِ, حَتَّى يُثْ. So if a person is not, because it's a very light letter, it's a very soft letter, it has a tendency to not be pronounced clearly with the air coming out. مِنَ الْأَجْدَاثِ, مِنَ الْأَجْدَاثِ سِيرًا, right? The Thāʼ could get mixed up with the Sin. النفاثات, rather than نفاثات, right? النفاثات, right? Oh. طيب. Our next makhraj, which now we're moving on to the lips. All right? The first one is from one lip. He says, وَمِن بَطْنِ الشَّفَةِ فَالْفَاء مَعَ أَطْرَافِ الثَّنَايَا الْمُشْرِفَةِ. And from the inner surface of the lower lip, he doesn't say lower lip, he just says lip, together with the edges of the overlooking incisors, emerges the letter Thāʼ. However, his ordering of the sentence is a bit different. وَمِن بَطْنِ, and from the inner batn, we've mentioned this before. Right? What does batn mean? Inside, right? The inner part of something. The part which is not facing people. It is in contrast to, sorry? ظاهر or ظهر. نعم. So باطن ظاهر or بطن ظهر, right? That's why even in our body, we call the front part, our torso, right? Our baṭn. And our back, we call it our ظهر. Because that's the part which is facing people, and that's the part, the ظهر is the part which is not facing the people. And from the inner surface of الشفة, the lip. ومن بطن الشفة. And this is referring to the lower lip. فالفاء would be the fa, or then the fa, مع أطراف, together with the edges of, or the tips of, الثنايا المشرفة, the overlooking incisors. أشرف على الشيء, meaning you're looking from high up at something, right? Overlooking something. So he's using a different word to describe the ثنايا العليا, the overlooking incisors, meaning the upper incisors, right? And how do we know it's referring to the bottom lip?
Experimentation.
Experimentation now. Because it's... anyone tried pronouncing fa with the top lip? One of the explainers, he says, وأطلق الناظم الشفة ومراده السفلى كما تقرر لعدم تأتي النطق بالفاء مع العليا. He says, the Nazim, the person who's written the poem, he has not defined the shafa, the lip which he is referring to. And he is intending the bottom lip because it is not even possible, it's not even sound to pronounce it from the top lip. It wouldn't even make sense to pronounce it from the top lip. طيب. Any questions here? No? All good? طيب. We'll group these together, inshallah, because there's 3 other letters which are from both lips now. Right? That was from the bottom lip. Now it's from both lips. He says, لِلشَّفَتَيْنِ الْوَاوُ بَاءٌ مِيمُ. For the 2 lips are the letters waw, ba, and mim. لِلشَّفَتَيْن, for the 2 lips are the letters waw, ba, and mim. Ibn Al-Jazariyyah rahmatullahi alayhi elaborates, he says, لِلْوَاوُ غَيْرُ الْمَدِّيَّةِ وَالْبَاءُ وَالْمِيمُ مِمَّا بَيْنَ الشَّفَتَيْنِ فينطبقان في الباء والميم. Yes. Yeah. This is another important thing to note. Actually, we'll point that out further actually when we show the diagrams, inshallah. Okay? We'll point that out, inshallah. But, so he says there's 3 letters which come from both lips. Alright? In his An-Nashr. He says the waw which is not maddiyah. Waw which is not maddiyah. So what are the situations when waw is not maddiyah? Lean. Lean could be one of them. Lean is they count that as not mad. No. Lean and the harakat. No. Right? Whether that be with shadda or whether that be without shadda. As one of the scholars mentions, تخرج من الشفتين لكن ليس على إطلاقه. فالمقصود بالواو غير المادية بل المقصود حرف اللين أو المتحركة. He says what is intended here with the waw is either the lean or the mutaharrik wow. What do we mean by lean, by the way?
When it comes after a fatha or kasra.
Sorry?
Fatha, when the waw comes after fatha or kasra.
Is it? Be more specific. Sorry?
In second.
And it has sakin now. It has sakin and it's preceded by a waw or a ya. طيب. طيب, what about waw maddiya then? Sorry? Yeah, but why is that not included here?
Because it comes from the jawf.
Comes from the jawf, ahsant. We said in the jawf, we have the three letters which are maddiya, right? Which is the alif maddiya, and the waw maddiya, and the ya maddiya. So that's jawf. Whereas here, it's the remainder of the waw. طيب. Also, scholars have mentioned that the waw comes from both lips without فَيَنْطَبِقَانِ فِي الْبَاءِ وَالْمِيمِ. In ba and mim, the lips, they close. Alright? Whereas in waw, they do not close. Right? So when it comes to waw, it's not something that we should close the lips for. And if we close the lips, what happens?
The sound doesn't come.
It will start coming from the khayshum now. So now, for example, if I say mwa, mwa, right? That's what happens. Or if I say, we've given this example. Ya'maloon, right? So that's an important point, that when it comes to the waw, we do not close the lips. Whereas with the ba and the mim, we close the lips. There is one scholar, Al-Imam Al-Mahdawi, rahmatullahi alayh, who has separated the waw from the ba and mim. One of the scholars, Ghanim Qadduri, he says, وَأَفْرَدَ الْمَهْدَوِيُّ الْوَاوُ بِمَخْرَجٍ مُسْتَقِلٍ عَنِ الْبَاءِ وَالْمِيمِ فقال المخرج السادس عشر مخرج الواو من بين الشفتين أيضا غير أنها تهوي حتى تنقطع إلى مخرج الألف وهو خلاف مذهب جمهور العلماء. He basically says, and he quotes Al-Imam Al-Mahdawi rahmatullahi alayh, saying that waw is separate from the ba and the mim. And why has he separated it? Why? Because the lips do not close completely. Whereas in ba and mim, they close completely. Al-Imam Al-Mahdawi, again, one of the well-known scholars of tajweed and qira'at and Qur'an. He's got a few tafasir. He's got a few books on qira'at. He's also been mentioned by Al-Imam Al-Shāṭibī rahmatullahi alayh in one of the abwab where he says وَإِخْفَاؤُهُ فَصْلٌ أَبَاهُ عَاتُنَا وَكَمْ مِنْ فَتَنْ كَالْمَهْدَوِي فِيهِ أَعْمَلَ. When he's talking about isti'ādah, he mentions that he considered it sunnah not to read the isti'ādah out loud when a person is reading Qur'an out loud. Alright? طيب. So he's a well-known scholar of tajweed and qira'at. طيب. So the images. Starting off with fa, we mentioned بطن الشفة. We mentioned بطن الشفة. Where is بطن الشفة? The inside of the lip. No. So a lot of the times, maybe in English, I don't know if this is the case, but some people will pronounce F with their tooth maybe more on the outside. Allahu alam. Right? But I've seen some people pronouncing the fa more from either the middle or closer to the outside. Right? And what that causes is the air not to flow easily. Right? A person says fa, it gets stuck. Right? The air is not flowing properly. Rather, it should be on the inside. Right? It should be on the inside of the lip, and it should be smooth to come out. Nice and easy. The air should be flowing very easily. Alright? So if a person, you see them pronouncing it more from here, or more from the outside, or closing it too hard even, and not letting the air flow, then we know that all of those are mistakes when it comes to the fa. طيب, so that's the fa. Any questions in regards to the fa? You were saying something, Muhammad? Is that clear?
فاء مع أطراف الثنايا مش.
No.
You said this is the upper one. I understand the lower one, right? مع أطراف الثنايا مش.
No.
So البطن مع.
Yes. الثنايا. ما معنى الثنايا? The teeth. المشرفة refers to the ثنايا, the top. That's what we were talking about when we. No.
This one. Yeah.
Hey, الشفة, it's the bottom one.
Yeah.
No.
But here, so this one is this is the lower one, the upper one. This is my understanding.
No, it's the meeting of two parts. What are the two parts that are meeting?
Okay.
To cause the sound.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it the bottom? If it was the bottom lip, you wouldn't need this. It's this top teeth meeting with the inside of the bottom lip. So? No. Because otherwise, like, it can't both be from the bottom, Aslan. So? طيب. 16th articulation point. بين الشفتين. Between the two lips. Alright? Those were the three that we mentioned. So the first one is the waw. Alright? The articulation point of waw. Then we have the articulation point of ba. Then we have the articulation point of mim. Now with the waw, as we mentioned, the lips protrude forward a little bit, they come forward a little bit, and they are not completely closed. The lips are not completely closed. There is a bit of gap, as you can see here, in the front view. So you need to leave a little bit of gap between the lips. And you will see that the back of the tongue is kind of sloping downwards. Alright? In regards to the ba and the mim, what do we notice in regards to the lips when it comes to the ba and the mim? Sorry? Closed. What do we notice the difference between the ba and the mim? Any difference we notice?
The air is coming out from the nose.
Sorry?
The air is coming out from the nose, from the mim.
Yes, that too. But in regards to the lips?
Well, the ba has a greater meeting area.
Aywa. So the ba is more, there's more pressure. It's more tightly closed. Why do you think that is?
It's a stronger sound.
Yes, how so? Yes? No. Heavier in what way? What do you mean heavier?
There's no air coming out from it.
صح. That's the one. That's the answer I'm looking for. Because the ba, the air has no gap to come out any other way. Whereas the mim, it's coming out from the nose. Right? It's coming out from the nasal passage. And that's why it's not shadid and not rikhu. It's not something which is completely closed or completely blocking the sound, nor is it completely letting the sound flow freely. Mim is one of those in-between ones, lin umar, right? وَبَيْنَ رِخْوٍ وَالشَّدِيدِ لِنْ عُمَرٍ. Why is it an in-between sound? Because even though it's not able to flow through the mouth, through between the lips, it's able to flow from the nasal passage. So the pressure between the lips is not as much. The need to close the lips as tightly is not as much. Whereas with the ba, it only has one way to come out, and so you have to close it tightly to stop the sound from escaping. So those are some of the differences between the waw and the ba and the mim. طيب. طيب, important points regarding the articulation of fa, waw, ba and mim. Number one, when the fa is repeated, it is necessary to make each clear. as this can cause the air to be taken out, hence turning the fa into a waw. Just generally, the fa, not pronouncing it clearly, can make it into a waw. And we have a lot of fas at the beginning of words, right? If those are changed to waws, changes the meaning. There's endless amount of examples, right? وَحَفَفْنَاهُمَا بِنَخْلٍ, right? لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ قَذَفَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمُ الرُّعْبَ خَلَائِفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Does anyone know the difference between the meaning of waw and fa?
Both of them can have multiple meanings.
Sorry?
Both can have multiple meanings, no?
Inshallah. It's like a more advanced version of Allahu A'lam.
Fa shows like that it comes with a consequence faster, and wa is just doesn't show the time difference.
Yes, good. Good. So fa, it can be something which is comes as a result of something, or comes consequently to something, right? Or after something. Okay? Whereas the waw, it just adds something to something else. As in this and this. Like how we say in English and, right? Without showing that one is in that order with the other thing. Alright? Fa shows ordering. طيب. So fa we usually translate it as, in a lot of contexts we usually translate it as then, right? طيب, what's the difference between fa and thumma then?
السرعة ثم there is a gap in time.
جميل.
جاء محمد فعمر straight away عمر.
جميل.
ثم عمر means maybe after.
جميل. Very good. So fa shows something which is immediately after, whereas thumma shows a time period. See, for example, in Surah Al-Baqarah, the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كَيْفَ تَكْفُرُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَكُنْتُمْ أَمْوَاتًا فَأَحْيَاكُمْ. So immediately after we were dead, we were non-existent, Allah brought us to life. ثُمَّ يُمِيتُكُمْ. Then after that life had started, then it was thumma. There was a time period, right? Then we were brought death, or we were made to die. ثُمَّ يُحْيِيكُمْ. And then after a period of time, because now it's a barzakh stage, right? And there's a time period between now and, between the time you pass away and between the time you are resurrected. ثُمَّ يُحْيِيكُمْ ثُمَّ إِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. And then after that, after a time period, because Yawm al-Qiyamah is a long time period, right? إِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. You will return to Him. So see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this ayah, He has differentiated between fa and thumma. Something we don't have in the English language. So, طيب. When the waw has a dhamma or kasra, it is necessary to make it clear, as the letter is often pronounced close to a hamza for ease. Or it is pronounced without clarity. Especially when it has dhamma. It is quite a difficult letter to pronounce with dhamma. At-tanawushu, wushu, right? Because already you are bringing your lips together for the sound of the waw. And then dhamma itself comes from dhamm, right? Which is to bring something together. So dhamma is when you're bringing your lips together again. So combining the two is a difficult thing. يوم تبيض وجوه وو فاغسلوا وجوهكم. Right, it's a difficult form to pronounce. طيب. Moving on. When the ba is followed by an alif, then followed by a heavy letter, it is necessary to make the ba as well as the alif clearly light, as it is easy to pronounce the letter heavy due to the letter after it. So if a ba is followed by an alif, obviously the ba and the alif are light. And then it's followed by a heavy letter, then we tend sometimes to make either the ba or the alif, or both of them, heavier. Or we tend to make it heavy towards the end of the alif. So sometimes we might go for the phrase غَيْرَ بَاغٍ, right? We tend to go ba rather than باغٍ. Alright? بالغ باسط الأسباط rather than الأسباغ, right? الباطلة. If the meme is sakin and followed by a fa, waw, ba, it is necessary to make the meme clear due to the proximity of these letters. This is something which often happens, right? When a meme, which is sakin, is followed by one of these lip letters, fa, waw, or ba, we tend to make one of them unclear, either the meme or the letter after it. So for example, hum wa az, hum wa. Wa hum fiha. Yamudduhum fi طغيانهم. أيديهم وتشهد. And then he's also mentioned meme. He's also mentioned ba, which there's less possibility of mixing the two. Why? Sorry? إخفاء شفوي. No. Because of the إخفاء شفوي. So like وهم بريئون. Do we do إطباق or do we do فرجة? Which one? Which one were we taught? Do we know what they are?
Touching the lips or keeping a gap between
Eh. Sorry?
I was taught to keep like a paper gap.
We'll come to it, inshallah. But I mean, both methods are taught by scholars of Qur'an and Qira'at, and both have their backing. And I've been taught both by different teachers, all right? But the asah is to do itbaq. هذا الأصح, yeah. But there's no harm with either, right? There's no harm with it. But when it comes to furja, some people keep a proper gap, and that is not correct. To keep a proper gap between the lips is not correct. Rather, it should be touching lightly. For those who take that view of furja, then it's touching lightly. It's not keeping a gap between the two lips. Both the iqlab and, so there's iqlab with the noon sakin, and there is ikhfa of the mim sakin. So both are pretty much the same. Not pretty much, both are the same. Like for example, mim ba'di and am bi zahirin min al-qawl. They've got the same ruling. Why? Because iqlab means to switch. Sah? Iqlab means to switch. So the noon is switching to a mim. So whatever you're applying there, you're applying here with the mim. Mim sakin with the ba. The noon sakin with the ba, same thing you're applying with the mim sakin with the ba. طيب, but we'll come to it when we come to باب أحكام النون الساكنة والتنوين. Sorry? What's the difference? إطباق is just a description of the إطباق is just a description. إطباق is just a more modern description, right? For what you would do for the mim sakin with a ba, or what we call ikhfa shafawi. All right? And there's a difference between the two in the sense that we don't call this idgham aslan, right? We call it ikhfa. Ikhfa is when you hide the sound of something, whereas idgham is when you merge the two together, right? And the difference between idgham and ikhfa is that ikhfa, you're retaining the same letter, you're keeping the same letter there as it is, but you're hiding the sound of that particular letter. Whereas idgham is when you put, or you make the first letter into the second letter. فهمت؟ نعم. طيب. No. That is all, inshallah. That is all the points, inshallah. With that, we'll conclude, inshallah. If there's any questions, we're finishing a bit early today.
One of the points for the
Yes.
so the Thāʼ should be emphasized when followed by strong letters. What are the strong letters?
Just generally anything which is pronounced with some of the strong characteristics or some of the strong qualities. Like jahr is a strong quality. Loudness. Thāʼ is a quiet sound, right? Right? Where that's a loud sound. So there's some qualities. Yeah. So there's some qualities. There's some qualities which are stronger, and there's some qualities which are weaker, right, which apply weakness to the letters. So, for example, shidda is obviously a strong characteristic, and rakhawa is a weak characteristic, right? Qalqala is a strong characteristic, right? And so on. طيب. Any other final questions before we conclude? طيب. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
ورتل القرآن ترتيلا.